What a Catch, Part 9, a Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction. If you haven't heard the previous 8 parts, you can find a link to them in the description box below. A special thanks goes out to Gamnamu on Tumblr for the use of her art in this video. You can find a link to her Tumblr account in the description box. Adrien took a deep breath as he turned into the park, wishing he had Plague with him. It would be easier to face her as Chat Noir. Ladybug knew his superhero self better than she knew his civilian self, probably, and he wanted to talk with her as long as possible, with or without knowing who she is. Although he still had no idea who was behind the mask. Juleka had dropped some questionable references to their high school days that made him not want to write her off completely, but he still wasn't sure. There was also the comment about Morel that Rose had made, but he needed to meet her first before deciding. He felt his nerves getting the best of him as he stood in an empty park. She was coming, right? He sighed and pulled out his phone to text the one person who was a master at calming him down. Wish me luck, okay? He was glad he had Marinette's number. She had always been a rock to support him, both as Adrien and Chat Noir. His phone buzzed a moment later and took him off guard, but it was for the better. Good luck! Go get him! Break a leg! Don't say too many puns! He smiled as he looked at her message to Chat Noir displayed on the phone. Her words were just like her, and they tickled his heart, giving him the courage to continue waiting for his lady. It would be wonderful if the masked woman made as good of a girlfriend as Marinette makes as a friend. Not that it mattered. He already knew how Ladybug supported her partners. Surely you aren't texting another woman, are you, Shantan? Bugaboo! Adrien turned around, grinning at the sound of Ladybug's voice. The instant he saw her, he froze. Adrien, what's wrong? She asked, noticing the change in him and stepping closer. It's not possible, Adrien thought. Are you okay? Women aren't supposed to be this. He racked his brain for the word. Pretty and gorgeous wouldn't fit. Mesmerizing. She had replaced her trademark twin ponytails with low buns, accented by tiny lotus flowers. She was wearing eyeliner beneath the mask, proof that she had dressed up for him. He swallowed as he lowered his eyes to look at her dress, taking in every last detail. It was going to be the featured piece of his next collection once he got back to New York. The ruffles, the Chinese collar. It blended the Western and Eastern looks beautifully, as though it were a costume that K-pop idols wore on tour. And she took his breath away. Maybe it was because she wasn't in her trademark ladybug suit, or maybe it was the way her freckles peeked out from under her mask, but wow, was she... wow. Adrien? Her voice calling his name rippled through him, a sweet sensation that took him off guard. He heard his heartbeat ringing in his ears and wondered, for a moment, if she could hear it too. My lady, he began, unsure how to finish his sentence. He had no words for this moment. Shantan, she said, returning his greeting. A blush spread across her face, clashing against her red mask, and Adrien realized that, perhaps, her heart was beating just as loud as his was. How was your day? Wonderful. I had supper with a good friend of mine today. Really? Where did you go? No hints, silly kitty. How would that be a hint? I wouldn't put it past you to bribe the hostess for the reservation list from tonight. Touché. Sorry, she smirked. Not even a little hint? Ladybug sighed and rolled her eyes. It's within walking distance. From here? Yes. Juleka, Adrien thought. They went to dinner together just around the corner. But would she really give him such a large hint? Was she really Julika? Or was it just a coincidence? Not only that, but the restaurants around here were rather expensive. Out of the girls on the list, only Morel would be able to afford to eat out here on her own unless she went on a date with another man. Adrien shook the thought out of his head. She wouldn't have, would she? She had him, Chat Noir, right? But what if she wasn't waiting on him? Would she have told him who she was if she did want to date him? Was this all a game to her? Was he 16 again, with one-sided feelings? Had she ever wanted to know who he was? I can't think like this. I need to get these doubts out of my head. So who do you think I am? Ladybug's voice cut into his thoughts, throwing him off guard. Adrien furrowed his eyebrows, realizing the time for small talk was over and the moment of the night was happening. But who was she? Rose? Julika? Rose? Julika? Julika? Rose? You're Julika? Thank you so much for listening. This was a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction. Part 10 will be coming out shortly. In the meantime, you can check out the playlist below for more fanfiction. I'll catch you next time.